All right, and here we go. Hello, everyone. Tom Tabor here with Marcus Long. Quick update. Got a little bit of a name change. I know this is already the third time that this has been done, but this is probably more fitting to what the podcast actually is. So this is now the Tabor Football Podcast, and I got Marcus Long, a familiar guest, with me today. And since Marcus is here, that means we're definitely talking 49er football today. Welcome, Marcus.
Thank you, Tom, for inviting me again for another week. As always, bang out a game, man. I had so much fun last week. Let's do it again with defense and specials now, man. So,
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
yeah,
bang bang Niner gang, and yeah, like you said, we're going in with the defense. So yeah, these are going to be our early roster predictions, and let's start off with our favorite position group, the D line. Our
oh,
best position group. So to start off, Marcus, very similar to what we did last week. I want you to tell me. Let's start off with our edge rushers. I
okay.
want you to tell me who's your favorite edge rusher to ever play for the 49ers.
To
Edge
be
rusher
honest.
/ D end.
So this one is kind of this guy's always been like a hybrid. I think they invented the position elephant because of him. But for me, my favorite edge rusher has always been Charles Haley.
Mm.
Um, I remember as a kid, I was like, "There's no way this guy should be 6'3", 270, and this quick and agile." And I remember, sad story. I remember like being very upset when they
Went to
traded him to the
Dallas.
Cowboys. Yeah, I didn't understand like why are we trading our best players. But Charles Haley, man, is my all time favorite edge rusher for the Niners.
That's an excellent choice. Luckily, he ended up coming back in the late 90s.
He
He
did.
was a
Yep.
part of that great run in 98 where he went
Yep.
to the divisional round. So he was a part of the catch two.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was the first player, I believe he was the first player in NFL history to get 5 rings. You can correct me if I'm
Yes.
wrong, but
Yeah. I
I
think
think
you are
so.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's an excellent choice. So for me, so this is a tricky question, just based off of the the type of defense you have.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to count Justin Smith as an edge rusher or a D end
Yep.
because I mean he technically was labeled as a defensive end in the style of defense that he was, but I'm going to consider him interior. So I'm going to have to
Yep.
go ahead and say Nick Bosa. Believe it or not,
Okay.
he's
Yeah.
my current favorite player on the 49ers. Absolutely love watching him play. He's phenomenal. Obviously, a breakout year last year. It looks like he just keeps improving year after year, which is great to see. So going off of that, let's get right into it. Let's look at who we got on the edge this year. So no doubt about it, Nick Bosa. He's going to be one of our starters out there on the edge. Now the question mark.
Sorry.
Now the question mark is who's going to start opposite Bosa. So right now it seems like the front runner is Drake Jackson
Mhm.
coming into his second year. Looks like during OTAs he's definitely a lot leaner, put on some more muscle. He's definitely looking a lot better, a little more prepared physically than he was last year. Last year towards the end of the year he was a healthy scratch, especially
Mhm.
down the stretch. So Drake Jackson, other options are some new additions. So Cleveland Farrell, who
Mhm.
I'm very intrigued to see how this will go. So right now, Cleveland Farrell is sort of being labeled as a bust. He was taken in the first round by the Raiders back in 2019. But Marcus, he has Chris Kasarik, who's a D-line guru. And
D-line guy.
we saw what Kasarik did with Arden Key. Do you remember Arden Key a
Yeah.
couple of years ago coming over, and
Arden,
he got Arden Key a big fat contract?
Arden Key got paid because of your Chris Couture. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then another guy in the mix would be Kerry Hyder. He can do both.
Mhm.
They can move him in the interior, and then of course he can play on the edge like he did in 2020.
So I think also we have didn't Austin we signed Austin Bryant too.
Austin Bryant as well.
Austin Bryant from did he come from the Steelers?
Detroit.
No, Detroit. Sorry.
Mhm.
Um. So I think with our DNs, man, our DNs go as far as Bosa goes. We
Mhm.
saw back in what 20 was it 21 or 20 when
When
he
Bosa
was
got
out.
injured.
Okay, he got injured, and we had no push, no pass rush on the edge.
Mhm.
Um,
Kerry
So
Hyder led the team in sacks. He had 8
like
sacks. He was our leader.
8.5.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think we go as far as Nick goes. Of course, Nick is going to command a double team, which hopefully frees up your interior, frees up the opposite pass rusher. I do think that Drake Jackson actually will be, uh, even though he was a healthy scratch. I think it was more so that the D line would go more experience with Menahu um, last year as well.
Mhm.
So I think Drake, like I said, Drake Jackson can actually have can actually do well being his opposite of Bosa. Bosa get that attention and freeing up some room for him.
Exactly. And I will say a plus for Drake Jackson last year is, and I know this is kind of sad, but it's, you know, basically a reality as a 49er fan. Hey, he stayed healthy last season. So that's important. Obviously, deep injury history with a lot of guys on the team. So to have someone like Drake Jackson who stayed healthy. Now, I will say, speaking of injuries, that is my concern with a guy like Austin Bryant. He's a guy that hasn't really reached his full potential due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then another guy that we forgot that I don't think he's going to be in the mix. I actually think he's going to be fighting for a roster spot altogether. It's going to be the rookie Robert Beal out of Georgia.
So that's actually, so I thought that, look, when you have a phenomenal defense as Georgia had, of course you want anybody to play defense for them. So actually, I think Bill may actually be a surprise for us. Whatnot. Because I know, like I said, he was a DN at Georgia and whatnot. So I think he can actually, add some depth and value to us. And even if he learns from Bosa and Farrell and Drake and whatnot, it's going to be, add to depth for us in future
Absolutely.
years. One thing about Farrell, I know everybody likes the bus claim. I've never been a fan of the bus label. Sometimes guys are just drafted in the wrong positions and have,
Yep.
the wrong situation. I think Farrell, he went to the Raiders and they had a few, different head coaches, different D coordinators, and kind
And
of didn't work out.
clearly overshadowed by Max Crosby over there too.
Crosby and also Carl Nassib
Hmm.
for a few of those years. So, like you said earlier, Chris Kershik for some reason loves taking guys who were either overlooked or didn't pan out to what the expectations were and getting them paid. Arden Key, Charles Omenihu, who we traded for. It's another DN pass rush we had like 2-3
Samson
years ago.
Ebicom.
Samson Ebicom, who we gave a pretty decent contract to, and also Kerry Hyder. I know Kerry Hyder's inside,
He
but
ended up
Kerry
getting
Hyder,
a nice contract with Seattle after
yeah,
2020.
and came
So
back. So like you said, I think with our pass rushers, of course, you go as far as Bosa goes, but I do like the depth that we have. Now, if we have 1 or 2 injuries, that does kind of worry me for our pass rush. However, I know we talk about the next group. We do have some guys that can play both inside and out.
mhm,
So yeah,
exactly. And I will say this was only one game, but if we flash back to 2021, I don't know if you remember that wild card round against Dallas. Bosa actually got injured in the first half, knocked out with a concussion. So it was those other guys
yeah,
like Charles Omenihu, Arden
yep,
Key that actually had to step up. And that was when we had that
yep.
not weird, but like awesome streak of, we went 3 straight games with at least 5 sacks.
Oh,
And yeah, so it started with that season finale against the Rams. Then it
mm-hmm.
happened in the wild card round against Dallas, and then it happened with Aaron Rodgers in the divisional round. But I will say the person who really took over that Dallas game was actually in the interior, DJ Jones.
Yeah, yeah. DJ Jones, in which I think he went to. Did he go to Denver? No,
Denver. Yep.
he went to Denver. Yeah. Which hey, I'm awful guys getting paid. We knew that going into this off season, we couldn't pay everybody. So
Exactly.
I'm glad DJ Jones got paid at
He
Denver.
deserved it.
Yeah, like I said, hey, get paid, man. Also, another. I know he was interior. We played, I think, outside too. That departed us was Jordan Willis.
Yes. Yeah. So we're losing Jordan Willis this year. So he mostly played on the edge last year. That was definitely a key depth piece that we're going to be
Yeah,
missing this year. Jordan
yeah,
Willis is a guy that's always been able to just explode off the ball. He's
yeah.
a playmaker, and he made arguably one of the biggest plays in 49er history when he blocked the punt against Green Bay to turn the
Yep.
tide of that game to allow us to upset the number 1 seed Packers at Lambeau Field clinch a berth into the NFC Championship game. So Jordan Willis will go down as having one of the best moments in 49er history.
Jordan Willis will never have to pay for a steak in San Francisco.
Absolutely.
For the near future. But that's one thing I can say about, and shout out to John Lynch. It seems like that he always finds guys, because we traded for Jordan Willis. We traded for him, I think,
in 2020, at the end of 2020.
Because he came from the Jets, correct?
Yes, was he a third rounder, fourth rounder?
I think it's kind of the same thing as we said about Colin Farrell. He was third rounder. I don't think he panned out. I think he had some injuries for the Jets. Maybe, but still, same like him, same like Farrell, same like Amenahu, kind of guys.
Same like Arden Key.
Mm-hmm. Arden Key.
Then you get these guys
with
Chris Kasarik, and then it's night and day. The transformation.
And with the D-line, well, I'll mention that later. We can move on if you want to the interior, because it's something about Kasarik I was curious about. We can talk about it later.
Oh, we can talk about it now. What do you got for us, Marcus?
So I was curious when DeMeco got hired with Houston, if Kasarik was going to be the D coordinator.
I was worried about that.
And with that, I was like, okay, it makes sense. Our strength is our D-line. So the strength being the D-line, make our D-line coach the coordinator. And I remember reading somewhere stating that he didn't want the coordinator position.
That is what I heard too. So the guy I follow, Grant Cohn, he actually stated that. So he asked Chris Kasarik about it. So Kasarik loves coaching the D-line so much. He loves just watching the front seven in general that he can't really, I think he said something along the lines of he can't really focus on, what's going on in the back end, because all he cares about is the D-line. He just wants to see those guys ball out. So he said there's like no other position he'd rather be in. He wants to be coaching D-line. He doesn't want to be a coordinator. He doesn't want to get involved in that. He just wants to stay in the trenches, which I 100% respect. And, me being a lineman, it's like I love hearing that.
And we thank you, because I think he would excel a D coordinator, but if his passion is just showing these guys different hand techniques on the line, and so be it, man.
Absolutely. He's the guy to do it. So moving on, we'll move on to the interior D-line. So I want to start off with let's share our favorite interior D linemen to ever play for the Niners. Now, this is a tough one for me, but it has changed in recent years. So growing up, obviously grew up around, watching Bryant Young play. Absolutely love Bryant Young. I'm so glad he finally got inducted to the Hall of Fame last year. Outstanding human being as well. But for me, I do have to say my all-time favorite, actually defensive lineman altogether for the 49ers is Justin Smith.
Cowboy. I kind of figured it's going to be Cowboy. I figured it's going to be Cowboy. Like, it's going to be Cowboy. I remember I was getting Cowboy, and I remember we paid a lot for him. I remember he did, great work with
in
the
Cincinnati.
And I just thank God that the referees never called holding on him. So he freed up Alden Smith on those stunts. But
he almost got Alden to break the sack record.
If it wasn't for Justin Smith getting those double teams, I don't think Alden would have the production he had. Yeah,
exactly.
My favorite defensive tackle, I have to. Growing up, he was a guy, and unfortunately, saying his name now is not in the best light. But growing up, it was Dana Stubblefield.
Oh yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
And it was. Now I was a kid.
Yep, exactly.
Kid, knew nothing about his dealings, but it was Dana Stubblefield. I think it was more so because it was just a team of having him and Brian Young on the interior, man.
That was an insane D line in the late 90s.
Yeah, from 93 to like 97 till he got paid.
Him and they also had Chris Dolman too. That one.
Oh yeah, on the end. 94 Super Bowl, and then Ricky J. Sorry, get a bit ahead of myself. But yeah, it was Dennis Stubblefield. I would say I have to change it now.
You can keep it, because you gotta, regardless of what happened off the field, Dana Stubblefield was a hell of a football player. You can't deny that. And The most famous quotes I remember from Dana Stubblefield is they show it all the time, especially when you're watching like something on the 99 Rams, but it'll be Dana Stubblefield saying, "Different city, same old sorry ass Rams." So when the Niners went on that 17-game win streak against the Rams in the 90s.
Yeah, we owned the Rams for like, what was that, 8 years? But until Kurt
a long
won.
time.
Still
do own the Rams.
Well,
in the regular season.
New decade, new streak.
Same old sorry ass Rams.
Yeah.
I hope we don't regret saying that later on this season.
They might win one this season, but
could split.
Yeah,
but we'll find out. So looking at our current interior situation, so obviously a huge boost, something I feel like we haven't had since we lost DeForest Buckner, but signing Javon Hargrave, huge free agent signing for us, great interior pass rusher. He's going to start opposite Eric Armstead, no doubt about it. That's going to be a hell of a group on the interior. But I'm honestly excited about the pieces behind them. So Javon Kinlaw obviously has been battling injuries the past few years, but at OTAs, they're saying he's looking leaner than ever. And they're saying that he looks good. He's been able to finish the workouts. He looks healthy again. He looks like he's playing freely. He looks like he's, not as cautious, not as weary of potentially getting re-injured again. So Kinlaw is a guy that could come around this year. Obviously, he's going to be a rotational piece now, not necessarily a key starter. So Kinlaw, and then Kevin Givens, they re-signed this year. Very pumped to get Kevin Givens back. A guy that honestly showed me a lot last year, T.Y. McGill, coming off of got him off the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. Yep. So Chris Kasarik will always do that. He finds those undrafted guys or those practice squad guys and turns them into key rotational pieces. And T.Y. McGill stepped up, especially down the stretch and into the playoffs, because last year Hassan Ridgeway ended up going on IR to finish the season. So T.Y. McGill got a lot of reps in the postseason.
Yeah, because McGill was actually big on the pass rush against the Cowboys, or was it against?
I think the wild card against Seattle. I think he had quite a bit of action there.
Yeah. We have the luxury of having, honestly, 4 starting interior linemen. Like you said, with Hargrove, Armstead, Kinlaw, and Givens. Hopefully no one gets injured. But I think, I think that's kind of where our biggest depth is our interior linemen. Which, if you're rotating those guys, they're playing, 35, 30 plays instead of a whole, 60, 70. It's going to preserve, their bodies for the whole season. I think Kinlaw, man, I think we're going to finally see the Kinlaw that we drafted. Being that, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, and he's definitely going to go get paid. So I'm curious if he has a breakout year. I see if he has upwards to, let's say 8.5 sacks, 20-something, QB pressures, he'll definitely garner a big contract. I don't think the Niners will have the cap space to keep him, but he'll definitely, be able to get paid.
He'll get paid somewhere if he can stay healthy this year, have that breakout year. And you got to take into consideration who's going to get all the attention. It's going to be Bosa and Hargrave. So, and Armstead too. So it's like,
and Armstead's another one. I know Armstead. If I recall, we drafted Armstead to play the end, correct? It was Armstead and Solomon Thomas.
Yep. So Armstead, he had that one good year. So the year he got paid. So 2019 had that really good season, breakout year at the end. So they paid, so they paid him in 2020 as a result of that to continue to play end. But then ultimately, 2020 was definitely a little bit of a struggle at end for him. Kasarik figured like, hey, he's actually a better interior defensive lineman. So basically, I guess you can say it's like, maybe he's DeForest Buckner. So let's put him in the interior. And he actually he thrived. He's been thriving in the interior.
He's thriving in the interior. I think he's actually out. He's actually exceeded my expectations. What I thought he was going to be once he got paid. I seriously thought when they paid Armstead, I knew like we weren't able to keep Buckner.
Yeah.
And I thought like I was like, man, why did we make that decision? And I guess looking like hindsight 2020, I think it was probably the right decision to make. But Armstead's actually over exceeded my expectations to his play. And again, Armstead's another guy who can also play. Play outside if needed.
If needed, but I think we do have the depth right now where that probably won't have to happen, which is good. Yep. Another interior guy I want to call out is a guy that I'm really looking forward to actually seeing this year now that he's healthy is Kalia Davis at UCF. So this is a guy that converted from linebacker in college to D-line. That's why he wore number 22. But this guy I'm really excited about. He is, and I've seen some footage of him. He is so explosive coming off of the ball. He reminds me of, dare I say, he might be the next DJ Jones for the 49ers. Okay. Now, I swear, like, no one got off the ball quicker than DJ Jones. Like, there is one play that stands out to me in particular against Seattle in 2019 in that crazy regular season game against them at Levi's Stadium. DJ Jones blew the center right off the ball and sacked Russell Wilson. So it's like Kalia Davis has the potential to make plays like that because of his quickness.
So let me ask you this, Tom. By him, you said he went from linebacker to D-line. What's that?
Could be 40 to 50 pounds.
I was about 70, but you said 40 to 50 pounds he gained?
Yeah, so think about it. I would think most linebackers in college nowadays are like 240s, 250s. So to play D-line, I would say, so if you're going to be an edge rusher, I would say like 260 to 280, believe it or not, is probably the range you want to be in. To be an interior guy, you would at least have to be 290 to 300. So I would say he probably put on 40 to 50 pounds.
So with that, do you think that transition may have been, the catalyst? He didn't play last year because he was injured.
Yep. But they knew that when they were drafting him last year. They knew that he was going to have to essentially, you can call it a red shirt.
Yeah.
But they knew he wasn't going to be able to play that season.
Like I said, if we have more depth on that interior, man, it's sky's the limit. Like I said, it's our strongest group. It's probably, just going to be kind of blasphemous to say, probably the most depth we've had this year and last year, or the past 3 years at D lineman. I think I've seen probably since, like I said, that 94 team. We had like Ricky Jackson and, like you said, Dolman and whatnot. But yeah, we get.
And then Richard Dent, who was the MVP of Super Bowl 20. He was on that D line.
Yeah.
And do you remember Ted Washington? He wasn't on the Super Bowl team, but he was there in like 92, 93.
Okay, it was before, not after. Yeah, because he played nose tackle 330. Yeah, I remember Ted. Yeah. Then I think he went to the Raiders after or before. I think after.
So he ended up going to the Raiders at some point, and I remember he got a big fat contract after. So he won a couple Super Bowls in New England. I think he was there in 03, 04, got a big fat contract after that. Because, all those guys got paid, like him and then Richard Seymour.
Yeah.
So they got a nice payday after winning those Super Bowls for sure. Yep. But, feeling really good about the D-line. That's definitely going to be the strength of our defense this year. Now moving on to, just the front seven altogether. So now moving on to, like, the linebackers. First of all, I want to start with let's combine outside linebackers and interior linebackers or inside linebackers. Who is your favorite? No, we can split it up. Who's your favorite outside linebacker the 49ers have ever had?
My favorite outside linebacker is probably Ken Norton Jr. And that being is that I remember his punch out celebration there and stuff, the tackle sack. Being his dad was a legendary boxer, Ken Norton. And I remember kind of the buzz, fans had when they signed him from Dallas. So Dallas was just coming off winning, back-to-back
Super Bowls.
And even though, like I said, he was a big pickup. So Ken Norton's probably my all-time favorite outside linebacker for the Niners.
So for me, I got to say Julian Peterson
Ooh, okay.
Grew up
Yeah.
on Julian Peterson. He
Yeah.
was awesome to watch. Loved
Child's
watching
own.
him. And then I will have to say my favorite all-time linebacker for the 49ers. This might come as no surprise for you. Patrick Willis.
So that was actually also my favorite inside linebacker. I had the privilege of watching Patrick Willis play in high school, so we're from the same
Ooh.
area. I think he's like a year older than me, but
Mhm.
yeah, man, I remember back home in high school seeing his name everywhere. He was Mr. Tennessee, Mr. Football.
Yep.
So I've been knowing about Patrick Willis since I was like 14, 15, man. So he got drafted to the Niners. It was like, it was perfect. So yeah, Patrick Willis
Absolutely.
is my favorite inside linebacker as well.
So we talked about an awesome first round last week when we talked about 2010 Niners drafting 2 offensive linemen. So another like one of the best first rounds the 49ers have ever had was 2007. Got both Patrick Willis and Joe Staley in the first round
Yep.
of that draft.
Yep.
So that's another one of those first rounds that was just amazing for the 49ers.
I think Willis went at like 13 maybe, and then Staley went at like
Staley went later.
10. Oh, he went later? Like
Yes.
26th? Or
He was in the 20s. Then yeah, Willis was like 10 to 13,
10 to
somewhere
13.
around there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot they
But
went.
hell of a first round.
I forgot they both went first round the same year. I thought they were 2 separate years, but yeah, man.
Yeah, that was like some of the few good memories we had in those during those years.
But also cornerstones. Those 2 guys, definitely cornerstones to the 49er franchise. And
Absolutely.
Last week we talked about Roger Craig, not being in the Hall. I think maybe after this year, Patrick Willis should make the Hall. I know
He's
he
been
has
a
short career,
finalist a couple times.
but to go play 7 years and go either first or second All Pro 6 or 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that he led the league in tackles twice, Pro Bowl 6 years. I think Patrick's time is due. Patrick was Gale Sayers the youngest Hall of Famer ever? I think
Would he be the youngest?
I think if Patrick went like next year, would he be the youngest, or was it? No, I'm sorry, it's Calvin Johnson. My apologies.
Oh, that's right. Wow, I always
Johnson,
forget Megatron's already in there.
Calvin Johnson. Sorry, so he won't be. But yeah, it's due time for Patrick Willis to make Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Yeah, his first 7 seasons went to the Pro Bowl every year, led the NFL in tackles his rookie year. And then pivotal to that 2011, 2012 defense and 2013.
Yeah. Even those 2 and 14 years, but hey, we don't. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he always managed to make any tandem great. Him and Takeo Spikes, love that tandem, and then obviously him and Navarro Bowman. No better linebacking group than that.
Well, him, Navarro, and Ahmad Brooks. Because Ahmad Brooks, him and Navarro, man, were amazing linebacking core for us. So
absolutely. So looking at our current linebacker situation, so obviously our inside backers, 2 of the best, I have to say, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Those are going to be our starters this year. Now, this is where it gets interesting, is who's going to fill the role of Azeez Al-Shaair this year. So I think the front runner right now, and call me crazy, but I'm thinking it's Marcelino McCreary Ball, who almost made the roster at the end of preseason last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a guy that has, from what I've heard, he's made lots of strides this offseason, and it sounds like the 49ers are pretty high on him. So it could be him. Now, they also drafted D. Winters at a TCU. Mm-hmm. Apparently, he didn't look so great in rookie minicamp, but again, it's just rookie minicamp. He's still got ways to go. And then Jalen Graham, the rookie I think he came from Purdue. He's another guy that could be in the mix. And then obviously we can't forget about Oren Burks, who's a hell of a special teamer. Had to fill in for a few games last year when Azeez was injured. He's a guy that could potentially squeeze in there. And then Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. Now, and then I think Curtis Robinson, I think they're bringing him back for camp this year too. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I think as much as I love Flannigan-Fowles, he's a hell of a special teamer. I think he and Curtis Robinson, I think those might be the odd men out this year at that position.
So, and that's I think we be different. I think Oren Burke might be the starter, and I think because I know he filled in some when Aziz got hurt last year,
Yes.
and did pretty good job holding it down as a weak side linebacker. Also, can Robert Beal also play linebacker? Didn't
Yes, I
he?
believe he has that ability.
Okay, so I think he can either put his hand on the ground and stand up too. But I think to your point, Tom, of course the starters, the two locks, like you said, Greenlaw and Warner. Um, I think Burke might be the starter. I do think Golden will either be practice squad or special teams ace with Dimitri and Flanagan Flowers.
Mhm.
And agreed. I don't think Curtis Robinson may. Um, Maybe just a training camp body, but we'll
Yep.
see. I think what the thing I do fear is that, Lord forbid,
Injury.
if anything happens to Fred Warner,
Mhm.
who is our backup middle linebacker? Because Warner is definitely, I would probably say, the glue to our defense. From his
Yes.
calls and audibles. Um,
The guy's a heat-seeking missile too.
yeah, so I'm curious to see who would be kind of next man up if he goes down. I think that's kind of like that's my biggest fear last year. I think in the playoff game when he
Yeah.
in one
It
playoff
looked.
game he missed some plays.
Yep. It looked like it could have been the injury was more serious than it actually was.
Yeah,
But luckily, last year it's like, okay, I'm comfortable with Aziz having to fill in there. Like I'm
yeah,
completely fine with that.
yeah.
Because it's like, and it's funny because even like 2 years ago, so Dre Greenlaw missed most of the 2021 season due to injury.
I remember that. Yep.
Um, so insert Aziz Al Shire, and he had the best year of his career in 21. And
Mhm.
it's like watching Aziz and Dre Greenlaw, it felt like I was watching the same player. It's like these
Mm.
guys are both fantastic, by the way. But these guys, they look the same and they had the same elbow brace. Like they play the same. They're both like these guys want to make contact. Like there's
Yes.
no doubt about
Yeah.
it. These guys, and they're some of the surest tacklers I've ever seen. They rarely miss tackles. So it was always interesting seeing Aziz and then Dre in there. It's like, hey, who's who? Because
It's
these
a,
guys
it's
both play the same.
it's the same guy. It's just like you play Madden, you just copy a player and just change his number and his name. Yeah. I remember they do look like the same player. But in Greenlaw, and shout out to like our scouts because I think we drafted Greenlaw in the was it
Fifth
third round or
round.
fifth round? Fifth round. And
Yep.
was Aziz a third rounder?
Aziz was
Oh no, Aziz was
he was
sixth.
undrafted. He was undrafted, wasn't he? So
You may
that
be right.
he was in the same draft class as Dre Greenlaw. Um,
So you might be right. He was.
I
I think he was
think
undrafted.
I think Aziz went undrafted because I think our 7th round pick that year was Emmanuel Mosley.
Made the team.
Yep.
Who made the team?
I'll
He
always find people in the later rounds and after the draft. Always have that capability.
he did go undrafted. Yep. Let's see, he did go undrafted. So to your point, I think like you said Curtis Robson's probably odd man out. The guy from Purdue probably practice squad or a good special teams guy.
Mhm.
I think DFF Demetrius Flanagan Flowers does make it. So they did extend him. No, they signed him this offseason because I know at one point he had thought about leaving. So I think no, because he does add value to our special teams as well with Burke.
Without a doubt. Him and Oren
So
Burks.
yep,
I think Oren Burks is a lock, without a doubt. He's making this roster.
yep. But then also you mentioned a Ball. So it won't shock me if Ball is a starting weak side linebacker. That
Mhm.
just gives more depth to us. And actually, if we do have, I guess, a hold the defense, it probably is our weak side linebacker. But to
Yes.
have, our front seven
Oh, that's agree.
cover him up, it's not, a big hole to fill. So
Absolutely. But all in all, I think the front seven is going to be stacked this year. Maybe one slight weakness that you called out, but I think this could be one of the best front sevens that we've had. And I mean, we've had some good ones over the past 2-3 seasons.
So with the front seven, just a real quick time, is there fear? So no, last year, Bosa had what 18 and a half, 19 sacks,
18 and a half.
18 and
Yeah,
a
I
half.
believe it was 18 and a half.
Is there a fear that there's too much reliance on him with the pass rush, instead of it being more, I guess, spread out? Like, for instance, like how the Eagles had with 10 D linemen with sacks or 10, pass rush with sacks.
Yeah, they had like 4 D linemen with
4.
at least 10 sacks.
Yeah.
Which is just unprecedented.
So I think do you see a fear of us, or it's too much on Bosa to get the pass
That's a
rush?
great question. So definitely last year, yes. There was definitely, we were very dependent on him. And obviously it showed in 2020 how dependent we were on him. 2020, him being out week 2 for the rest of the season, saw a lack of production with sacks in the pass rush department. So I'm not too concerned this year because, I think Hargrave definitely adds, I know he's an interior D lineman, but the guy's basically like an Aaron Donald. Like Aaron Donald is an interior D lineman, but he'll still get 10 plus sacks every year. So
Yes.
I think we're going to have more productivity out of the pass rush this year. And then, we also have a heat-seeking missile in Talanoa Hufanga whenever we, blitz our safeties. Hufanga's a guy that will always get home.
Always goes home. Like as everyone says, he learned under the tutelage of Troy Polamalu.
Yep.
So yeah, Hufanga's another. So I think this year I just hope that yes, Bosa is our best pass rusher. I just hope the pass rush can kind of be, the sacks be evenly distributed so that hey,
yep,
everybody's a threat. But hey,
more so like 2019, because 2019, Bosa had 13, 14 sacks. Armstead had 10. D Ford had like 8 to 10. He was in that range.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then I can't remember how many DeForest Buckner had. I think DeForest Buckner
like 6 or
something
8,
like that.
something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, spread it out, kind of like 2019. All right, so moving on to what used to be considered the weakness of the group, but it could be a strength now.
Yes.
The secondary, starting with the corners. Now, actually, I got to start. Who is your favorite corner to ever play for the Niners?
I'm gonna cheat a little bit. My favorite corner is Ronnie Lott.
Okay.
Ronnie Lott
started out as a corner.
He started as a corner for the first 4 years as a Niner. And like I said, I know a lot of his best hits came in safety, but I think it was his first or second year. He got 10 picks as a. No, it was his first year. He got like 10. He led the league in receptions as a rookie. So yeah, Ronnie Lott is my favorite corner, and it was so hard at times. I'm like, do I go Ronnie? Do I go Deion? Deion had that one amazing year for us.
That 1 year, yep.
Do I go Rod Woodson, who had one great year for us, or do I go Eric Davis? So, but yeah, I was like, yeah, it's Ronnie. So it's Ronnie Lott.
Those are all great picks.
Yeah.
So for me, it's definitely tougher because, growing up, it just wasn't really one that stood out. I mean, there was a lot of hope for like guys like Nate Clements and like Dre Bly. I mean, Ahmed Plummer had some solid years. I mean, Mike Rumpf was he underperformed a little bit. But I do have to say, my favorite corner is probably Carlos Rogers.
Kind of figured
this is a guy that kind of flew in under the radar for me because he was a guy that people said underperformed in Washington. He was a first round pick, I believe, in 2007. Comes over the Niners in 2011. Instantly gets 7 interceptions, one of the league leaders in interceptions that year. Really changed the tide of that defense. We led the NFL that year in takeaways.
Yep.
And Rodgers was a huge part of that. And we're going to be touching on the safety soon, but I'll tell you right now who my favorite safety is. It's Deshaun Goldson. I love Dante Whitner, don't get me wrong, but Deshaun Goldson is my favorite safety that the Niners have ever had.
Yeah, because with with Golston and then Rogers at the corner. Was it 11, 12 those years? Yeah, it was. Our secondary was definitely they wanted to go get it those
Yep.
years. My favorite safety, probably no shock to anyone.
You gonna use
Is
Ronnie Lott
Merton
again?
Hanks. Is Merton Hanks.
Okay. The chicken
And is
dance.
Merton Hanks only because that's the reason the chicken dance. As a kid, hey, the chicken dance looked amazing, man. So it's definitely Merton Hanks. It was Merton Hanks, and then it was Tim McDonald. All right, and the only reason I
Yeah.
always remember those to the day is because Chris McDonald would always say Tim McDonald with a pick, E-I-E-I-O.
Yep.
Tim McDonald had a farm, but
I
yeah,
actually
for me,
watched
it's,
something.
Merton Hanks.
I watched one of those primetime episodes a few weeks ago, but it was like Tim McDonald has the ball. E-I-E-I-O.
Yeah, man.
All right,
Let's
quick
do that.
question, kind of off topic, but who's the best safety tandem the Niners have ever had? I'm going to give you these three options. All right. So I'm going to say Tim McDonald, Merton Hanks. I'm going to go Deshaun Goldson, Dante Whitner, or Jaquasti Tart, Jimmy Ward.
Ooh. I'm shocked you go McIver and oh my god, what was free safety? Never mind. I would probably say Deshaun Goldson and Dante Whitner. Only because I think as your safety, you kind of want to have two opposite styles. Hitting. I'm sorry, I keep saying Hittner. Dante Whitner, because he hit everybody.
He did change his name to Hittner that one year.
Yeah, he was laying guys out, which now is outlawed in the league. And then Golson, definitely set everything deep in the middle. So I'll probably say Golson and Whitner.
That would be my choice as well.
Yeah.
So getting back on track here. So our current cornerback situation. So I think we do have a pretty loaded corner room this year. So Mooney Ward, who I think was an amazing free agent signing. Demo Lenore, who had a breakout year last year.
Yeah.
We got Sam Womack coming back. He's going to be a second-year guy this year. I think he's a guy that can take a lot of strides. Isaiah Oliver to play in the slot. He's a big physical guy. Darrell Luter, 6'3". He's got some size to him. He can play press man coverage. Ambry Thomas, Quantrez Knight. Now, who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting someone.
Hold on. Let me check. Well, he's kind of a hybrid. So yeah, that's everyone. Well, Deshaun Jameson.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I gotta say the odd man out. So I don't see Quantrez Knight making the team. Jameson, I don't see making the team. Ambry Thomas, I think, could finally be the odd man out. I think no doubt Mooney Ward's going to be our number one. Now, the number two is going to be tricky because I think this could either be Demo or, believe it or not, Darrell Luter, the rookie out of South Alabama. And I know Sam Womack has made some strides. I know he's a guy that could start, but with this being a loaded corner room,
Oliver.
Well, Oliver, I think Oliver's going to start at the the nickel without a doubt. He's going to be our nickel corner.
Yep.
Man. But the thing is, Womack, Lenore, and Oliver can all play nickel corner.
So, as you know, Tom, we forgot one more player. It's probably be week 11 when we sign
Dante Johnson's going to
be Dante Johnson will be a 49er. Y'all can timestamp this now. I'm gonna say over under. I'll probably say week 9. But no,
Dante Johnson with the 7th stint with the Niners.
But no, I think to your point, Mooney's definitely going to be a starter. I was ecstatic when we signed Mooney last year because for years we needed a corner to solidify at least one half of the field. We haven't had that since we had Sherman. I know last year a lot of offenses picked on Demo, and I was
Mhm.
actually very proud of how he responded because
Especially in the postseason.
in the postseason as a second year player. Now, granted, I do think having that experience his rookie year, because his rookie year he had some struggles. I remember, playing,
Against
playing
Philly in
Cincinnati,
particular.
which hey, that's the struggles of being an NFL corner.
Mhm.
I would feel comfortable if Demo was the starting QB. Luster, I think Luster, he's 6'3", which means he has long arms. He's wiry, man. So I think Luster may need a year to maybe learn. I'm sorry, Luter. I'm sorry, I said Luster.
You're all
Luter.
good. You're all good.
Sorry. Luter a year to learn the system. But I think for finally time we have a good problem by having a
Too many
lot of
corners.
capable bodies and corners in the cornerback room.
Now I know Ambry Thomas gets picked on a lot, but he can't deny he is the guy that ultimately got the 49ers to the playoffs in 2021 with that
Yes.
game clinching interception against the Rams. Now, at that point in the season, he had started 7 games in a row and teams were really picking on him. Like he always had, they were always giving him safety help because it was a struggle. I mean, he was a rookie that year. But yeah, he was a guy that wasn't really picked on that much that postseason. Did phenomenal against Green Bay in the divisional round. He wasn't picked on at all.
Yes.
So, that was a guy that we thought we were going to see make, lots of strides last year. Unfortunately, it was a talented group last year. So Ambry Thomas only got about 41 snaps the whole season. I know he got injured too
Really?
at some point. Yeah. Mostly special teams reps.
Okay.
Actually, I think virtually all special teams reps. But yeah, I mean, he's a talented player, but I don't know if he has the talent to crack the roster, with given the depth that we have at that position right now.
Well, also, if we have to keep him on the practice squad, I think that'll be advantageous for us. Like I said, the more depth you have, the better for us.
I think he would get poached right away, though. If he's on the practice squad, he's getting poached.
That's a good point. That's a very good point because he has starting experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Hey, he might be in Houston. You never know. So yeah, I think Ambry. I'm rooting for Ambry. I'm gonna say that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rooting for him. I think when we drafted him and Demo, I think the thought was, hey, we have our corners, at least capable corners for the future.
Exactly.
So yeah, hopefully Ambry makes it. And Oliver was an interesting pickup for us. It was a very low value pickup too. It's not a lot of money for him.
Yep.
And also, I thought with Oliver, I was shocked that they signed him, given how well Sam Womack III did his rookie year at corner.
Thought Womack could easily play. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
well, last year it was funny too because everyone anticipated Womack was actually going to be the day one starter in the slot. Like that was the way it was shaping up all preseason, and then all of a sudden against Chicago. Actually, did he get the start against Chicago? And then it was week 2 where they decided to start Demo in the slot. Then ultimately it ended up being Jimmy Ward whenever he was healthy.
It was Sam Womack was a starting corner against Chicago. Because remember, he had an amazing preseason because he had a pick 6. Or there had 2 of them in the preseason.
He had a few picks, yep.
And then it was he's like starting like slot corner, and
then
maybe it was
Demo.
the 6th game. I think it was the Seattle game where he got benched.
Yep.
So yeah,
or maybe,
hey, again, he was a rookie, so yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I'm very, very excited, kind of anticipating the strides that he's going to make for year 2.
Yep.
So now moving on to safeties, we already addressed our favorite safeties. So I think the safety situation is going to be interesting this year. So I think it's going to look a lot different from week 1 to the end of the season. So I think your day one starters, I'm seeing, obviously, Huff, Talanoa Hufanga, and then I think Tashawn Gibson is going to be our day one starter. But I think as the season progresses, I think Jair Brown is a guy that's going to ultimately take Tashawn Gibson's starting role.
What we say, week 11 for Dante Johnson, so about week 9 for Jair Brown being a starter.
Mm-hmm.
I was very pleased with the Jair Brown draft pick. I remember watching a game against him, a game of him in college. I think Penn State played, was it Michigan? And I remember, like I said, seeing his name a few times. So I was like, okay, I can see why we drafted him with our
Hmm.
first pick of the draft.
He's a ball
Um,
hawk.
he is a ball hawk, which, as Jimmy became better of a ball hawk, later
Hmm.
in more recent years. So with that, man, we have great depth of safety with Jair Brown, probably being a backup to Gibson, definitely Huff, and then a guy who I was going to mention earlier,
George Odom.
who's familiar. Well, George Odom's our special teams ace,
Hmm.
who we got from Indianapolis, but Miles Hartfield.
Coming from
And
Carolina. Yep.
Miles Hartfield coming from Carolina, knowing Steve Wilkes' system. I think Hartfield can also play corner as well.
I think
I,
he can. It
I,
if needed. If needed.
if,
I think. Yeah. If the injuries do stack up, God forbid. Um,
so yeah, I think with those five, I think we probably will carry 5 safeties. Odom is definitely a lock. Huff is definitely a lock. And like you said, Gibson and Brown are a lock.
mhm.
Hartfield, I think, because of his versatility, will probably make the team,
Mhm.
barring injury. But hey, we'll see as camp starts.
No, exactly. All right, so that's the whole defense. Now we get to move on to the specialists. All right,
Hey,
so
most
let's
important guys ever.
most important guys out there. So I want to start at the long snapper position. So my favorite 49er long snapper ever is probably, I think he's the guy that had the longest tenure as a long snapper for the 49ers, Brian Jennings. That was my whole
Remember Brian
childhood,
Jennings.
was
Remember
Brian
Brian Jennings.
Jennings. Through all the
Yeah,
bad years, and he still managed to be the long snapper during that Super Bowl run with Kaepernick.
yep. I
So
remember
Brian
Jennings.
Jennings, definitely my favorite. And then it's a lock right now. I think no one's beating out Tabor Pepper. So I
Yeah,
think that one's settled.
that's settled. I think we talked about the last podcast that the 3 most important positions a team has to have is a quarterback. I forgot the second one, but the other one was long snapper.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, it was quarterback, center, long snapper.
Hmm.
Because hey, your long snapper goes down, it's very such a niche, I guess, skill that hey, you gotta have a guy that you know doesn't
Think about
fumble and hold. Yeah, so if he's
think about
automatic,
Trey Junkin.
oh man,
Trey Junkin 02.
I'm sorry, Trey Junkin, but I love you, Trey Junkin.
Yep.
At the same time, for messing up those snaps for the Giants and that 0-2 playoff against the Niners, man.
Hmm.
So yeah, Pepper's a lock, man. So no issue there.
Absolutely. And then we do have an intriguing
Let's let,
competition. Oh,
let's go punter then kicker.
and then kicker. Okay.
Yeah.
So favorite punter, I would have to say is definitely Andy Lee. No
Okay.
doubt about it. He was a difference maker, especially in 2011 when the so Harbaugh's first year offense wasn't that great. I mean, they won games with defense and special teams, no doubt about it. Andy Lee was a guy that could change the course of a game, by flipping the side of the field. I
Bring him
mean,
back.
the Niners dominated, in field position that year, no doubt about it. Starting
Yep.
field position, Andy Lee was always able to pin opponents deep, and that's how they won games.
I remember like it was one year, one of the dreadful years. We were what 3-13 or something. Andy Lee was our only Pro Bowler. And I said, hey, please give him a contract extension because he was the only only thing, man, only weapon we had. My favorite
Yep.
punter is actually a guy. I think we only had him for a year. Was Reggie Roby.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, Reggie Roby. That was my favorite punter, man, for the Niners. Again, man, I think another punter probably should be in the Hall of Fame, given what he did with us in Houston, and other teams, man. So yeah, mine was Reggie Roby.
Hmm. And then our current punting situation, I don't think anyone's beaten Mitch out. So,
Nah, barring now, like that. I think they also gave Mitch an extension last season, also
yep.
during the season. So yeah, so
Yes, I believe. Yes.
I think they gave him extension.
Or it might have been this year.
Well, I'm sorry. I meant my bad. I meant last year. I meant this past
Yeah.
season.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then our only competition is the kicker competition. But we'll
Mhm.
start off with our favorite kickers. So I'm kind of torn between, well, obviously the classics, Ray Wershing, right? No doubt about it. But for
Yeah.
me, I'm torn between Joe Nedney, believe it or not,
No, I
and,
I
and
remember
Robbie
Jimmy.
Gold.
I mine was Ray Wershing. I was thinking like, do I go Ray? Do I go Dave Akers?
Because that
Or
one
do I
season.
go that one season? Like Akers was our offense for a while.
Mhm. Phil
But I
Dawson
think
was pretty solid too.
Phil Dawson was an amazing pickup for. I think I'm going Robbie, and I'm going Robbie based on 22, no 21 playoffs
Against the Packers.
against the Packers. He
Yep.
sealed it. So yeah, for me it's yeah.
I will say my favorite kicker nickname though is Jose Baby Cortez for the Niners.
I remember it was okay Cortez. Yeah, so
Yep.
we had some interesting kickers man over here.
There was like Todd Peterson that one year. Doug Bryan, who missed.
I remember Doug Bryan.
I feel bad for him, but that 04 divisional round for the Jets against the Steelers, missed a handful of field goals, extra points. I think that was his last game he ever played in. They also had Jeff Wilkins before he went to the Rams.
Yep, I remember Jeff Wilkins like 95, like 98, something like that. Yeah, like
Gary Anderson.
Yep.
Was
Gary or more? Yeah, it was Gary. It was Gary. I get Gary and Morton Anderson confused sometimes.
Yep. But so Gary was the one, unfortunately, for Minnesota that yeah. But anyways, so the current kicking situation. So this is the only competition with the specialists. It's Zane Gonzalez and Jake Moody. Jake Moody's definitely the front runner to win this one. Now, Jake Moody has a boot. So at OTAs, he's already looked great. So they said he nailed a 53 or 55 yarder yesterday. Nailed it. They said it would have probably been good from like 65 yards. Okay. So this guy has a boot. Now, one of the struggles that we've had is we can never kick touchbacks. I think Jake Moody is a guy that can boot this thing every single time, so we don't even have to worry about the kickoff coverage unit.
Well, with the rule change, we might not even have that issue this year.
That's true.
Yeah, with them changing the kickoff rules. I think it depends on who outplays who between Nedney and Gonzalez. I'm sorry, Moody and Gonzalez. Mm-hmm. But we drafted Moody in the third round. We traded
third
up
round.
We traded up for Jair Brown. Did we trade up for Moody too?
No. You're right. We traded up in the third round for Jair Brown, and then drafted Jake Moody with our second third round pick before we drafted Cameron Latu, who was our third round pick
from Alabama. And then Moody comes from Michigan. Hey, he's kicked in terrible weather, which I'm always a fan of a kicker who kicked in snow and wind and all that.
Oh yeah.
Also, though, I remember we traded for Zane Gonzalez. Now, granted, it may have been a low, like a 6 or 7 round pick.
Yeah, it was a very low end.
Okay, so let's gotta figure out, which I raise the risk. I think with Moody, if you put him on a practice squad, he would get poached.
Oh, without a doubt.
So yeah, I think Moody's probably our starting kicker. Gonzalez comes in to not give, as a camp lead. And if anything happens, we definitely have Zane there.
Yep. So. And I know Gonzalez, especially over the past few years, dealt with some injuries, so that I know that's going to be a concern too.
Yeah. So also I remember, was it 3 years ago? Was it 2 years ago when
Robbie got hurt?
Robbie was hurt, and we had Joey Sly.
And then it was 2 years before that where we had Chase McLaughlin.
Yep. That wasn't the same. Was that the same year?
So no, that was a different year. So 2019, Robbie went out for a couple games. And then Chase McLaughlin, I think his first game as a 49er, made his first 2 or 3 kicks. And then he had the opportunity to kick the game winner, which was a 47-yarder against Seattle. At this point in the season, we were 8-0. And he has the game-winning field goal to beat Seattle, but he missed it, I think, wide left.
Yeah.
And then we ended up losing to Seattle, thus being our first loss in the season, thus creating that intense moment, week 17 against Seattle, when the division, the 1 seed, everything was on the line. That led to that.
Thank you, Dre Greenlaw.
Big Blade Dre. Yep.
Extra reps when people retired and doing sleds and squats, whatever you have to do, man, to stop. It was a
Jacob Hollister.
Hollister from not making the end zone against the Seahawks, man.
Probably my favorite moment ever against Seattle.
Oh man, it was but to your point, I think Moody does make the team because I was a camp leg. So thanks, man. While we're on defense and special teams, I'm gonna ask you, Tom, with us losing our second D coordinator in 3 years, and now having Steve Wilks now. Luckily, Steve Wilks, they run we run a cover 3, whatnot. Do you see much drop off from Ryans to Wilks?
Honestly, I think the defense is actually going to be better this year
Really?
under Wilks. And, obviously I do think it's because the talent Wilks has around him. So now Wilks is primarily known for being a coach in the secondary. He had a hell of a secondary in Carolina, his first stint in Carolina. And that's his claim to fame in the NFL is this guy's a corner, he's a DB guru.
Okay.
And
he played DB. Well, did he play DB in the league?
I have to double check that. I think he was. So under Saleh and even D'Amico's first year, like the secondary was the clear weakness of our team. Yes. And there were plenty of moments where we were completely exposed by certain teams. Now I think this is going to be the best secondary that we see in a while because of Steve Wilks. And I don't think they're going to. And because Chris Kocurek is still coaching the D line, I don't think we're going to see them take a step back. So I think this defense is actually going to be better with Steve Wilks because we will see significant improvements in the secondary.
And I think it makes sense because with D'Amico, D'Amico was a linebacker who's an all-pro linebacker. Mm-hmm. You saw the progression and of how our linebackers progressed and grew.
Yep.
I think Saleh played linebacker. I think he did, but Saleh, his was like linebacker in front 7. To your point, with Wilks being a former DB and like you said, DB Euro, if our secondary takes a lead, then it might be lights out for a lot of teams.
Game over. Yep.
It might be us averaging 10 points a game, on defense. But I was actually very shocked that they drafted. Well, I was shocked Wilks didn't get the job in Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think Carolina went like 6-5 or 6. Like they was there for the.
They had a winning record. They had a winning record with Wilks.
And all the defensive players, for the Panthers stated, "Hey, we want Wilks to be the head coach." Of course, it didn't work out, but to the Niners' benefit, he's our D coordinator now. So
now. My next question is, how long is he going to be in San Francisco? Now, this is a guy that's going to be a hot head coaching candidate coming out of San Francisco.
Of course, our D coordinators are groomed to be, head coaches, which shout out to him.
Yep. Depending
on the success of the team, I think he might be here a few years, like 2. Now, if the defense plays how we say, let's say they average 10 points a game, the openings may be there for him next year and whatnot. But I hope. So selfishly, I'm gonna say this. Selfishly, I hope that he stays a few years just so we have stability.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly. Honestly, I'm saying 2 years maximum.
Max.
Maximum.
Hey, as long as I drop off in the D, let's say even like they average like 16 points a game or 17. Okay, I
Mhm.
mean, still decent, man. So yeah.
Well, if that's the case, think about when Brock Purdy was under center, they were scoring at least 30 points a game, the
Yeah.
offense. So
Yeah.
you win pretty much all your games then, if that's the case.
But selfishly, I do want to see us. I wouldn't mind us having a 2001 Ravens defense,
Yes.
and just to see how fun that would be, and how scary that'd be for the league. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
No, absolutely. Well, Marcus, we hit that 1 hour marker, and I think that pretty much wraps up. Defense, special teams. Time flies when you're having fun.
oh man, yeah,
But hey, no, thank you so much for coming on again. Love to have you back and talk some 49er football. We got the preseason coming up here, and it's June now, so we're only a couple months away. Training camps starts the end of July, so
next in
we'll
July. So
we'll have a lot to talk about.
after these finals, y'all, it's football time. Well, let's play baseball. I mean, hey, but yeah, after that, back to football. So,
Oh
Tom,
yeah,
thank you for having me, man. I've enjoyed myself. I look forward, man, to be invited, on future podcasts if necessary. But thank you, brother.
absolutely, absolutely. The Tabor Football Podcast signing off.
Bang bang down the game.
Bang bang Niner gang.